DM, developing musicianship online.
Hello and welcome to DM Online. Today we're going to have a look at Ableton Live, the Lite version. The main difference between the Lite version and the full version is the number of channels you can have, which is 8 in this case, and the number of loops that you can layer, which is also 8. You'll understand more as we get going. I'm just going to unpackage the software and get you started in creating. You will need some hardware to make this most effective. I've got the APC40, which is a touchpad, like a launchpad style device, and I've also got the MIDI keyboard, which in this case is the Akai MkII, which is pretty much just a keyboard, but it does have some assignable buttons and some drum pads. So let's get started. Ableton Live is with that purpose in mind, live performance. So the connection of devices to trigger things or to create in an improvisory sort of way is quite important to the functionality of this program. So I'm going to use the APC40 as a trigger for MIDI events, or it can be used for audio events. My experience with the audio and triggering waves is there's a bit of lag time. So if you are going to drop waves into this program, it's often good to make it not dependent on timing. For example, don't put in a bass drum kick as your trigger and then expect that every time you push play it's going to trigger with that, because it's just not going to do that. Then you've got the MIDI component, which is going to be your tool for creating the improvisations and doing the layers. So what's important is your first initial setup is vital to getting all this to work. In the preferences under link and MIDI, you must have your devices listed and make sure it's the correct one. So if you see the APC40 Mark II, if you put Mark I, you're not going to see the device and it's not going to function. Equally, the MkII, there's a couple of different minis, so just make sure you got the right one set up for your device. The other thing is to make sure your inputs are actually turned on, which is down underneath the place where you patch in your devices. Okay, so from this point we should have the MIDI connectivity. However, we must assign sounds to our MIDI tracks. So the MIDI itself comes up just as an empty soundtrack. So we need to pick things, and what you really want to do is not be doing this on the fly. You want to basically have decided what it is you're going to use for your different sounds. So maybe I'll use the analog saw bass as my bass. So once you've got that in there, you'll find that it actually functions. But you may find if you've got one of these little mini keyboards that the octave's wrong, so you've got an octave button and you can go down 2 octaves. Okay, so that'll now trigger record, and then you'll get the actual recording coming up as a loop. I'll just, for this moment, just give you one single example. So we've got the record enable up on the top here. I would say Ableton have not made finding things particularly easy, because there's not a lot of words on their toolbars, just pictures. So the picture at the top here with the circle and the black dot is your metronome options. So you can have a counting, you can have a click, but what it will do is it'll just give you the count in at this point in time. I don't have it set up to keep clicking after the count in is clicked. And then you've got, I recommend putting the actual quantizing on for record quantize. So down the bottom here you see record quantization, and you can choose your value of your notes from there. If you do that, we're not going to wind up with this weird, strange timing issue. Okay, and at this point, it's ready to go. So I'm just going to hit record and record something on the MIDI keyboard. Okay, so that's now stored in the purple button. The color comes from the actual top here, but you can change and convert colors to other things. So for example, if you want a pink button, you could go to where it says clip and change your color, and the button will change color here. So it's very handy if you're doing layers and you want like first layer, second layer, third layer, and you want to keep track of where that is on your pad. Color coding can be very useful. So ideally you would have a whole bunch of tracks set up, all with the sounds that you want for them, and you will go down the line and build up your layers one at a time. So I'm going to get rid of the audio ones because, like I said, they lag, and we'll just layer down some MIDI. So most people would probably put drums in second, and there's lots of options. That sounds pretty good. And then you probably want some sort of chord instrument, so perhaps the synth. And then perhaps some sort of MIDI lead instrument, which could be brass, or there's a whole bunch of lead sounds. Put in some of that. And maybe you want some sort of pad, so perhaps some strings. Okay, so at this point in time, whatever I've got record enabled is going to be where that records. Alright, so let's have a go. So that's how it all operates as a live vessel for performance. Now there's a couple of problems in all of that. If you have any latency issues, that means you're pressing the button and the computer's registering later than what you are, that you're hitting the button, then you can have a train wreck where loops do not line up. So you'll notice in the video that I pull a first beat away from being the first beat to the second beat. The screen capture software I use is actually causing latency in the computer, so it's not responding as quickly as it should. So if you take the screen capture off, you don't have as many problems, but timing switching your loop off is really essential to it actually looping and connecting. So personally, I think what I've just shown you there is a whole entire day of playing around with your device and getting it all to function and getting the timing right and that sort of thing. What I will do is I will leave you with that and hope that you come back next time, where I'm going to dig in a little deeper to what all these other buttons do. So at the moment we pretty much have a grip on the basics, and then we'll learn how to pull the sound around and how to add a few effects and things like that. So until next time, bye-bye.
DM, developing musicianship online.